Hi, and welcome to the Days Gone podcast. I'm Claire Weaver, a screenwriter, author, and Days Gone fan, and this podcast is a place to discuss the game in all its glory, share my opinions, both popular and unpopular, and listen to me fangirl over one of the best games ever made. There will be spoilers ahead, so continue at your own risk. Welcome to the Freak Show. Before we get started, I have the usual reminders. Weekdays at 8 a.m. Mountain Time, you can watch me livestream my Days Gone playthrough. I take on hordes, talk shit about rippers, and lay waste to ambush camps, all before I've had my morning cup of coffee. You can find me on my newly rebranded YouTube channel, 8-Bit Terror. I'm also a guest on the Spawnicus Rex YouTube channel on Tuesdays and Fridays at the new time of 9 p.m. Mountain. On Tuesdays, we're currently playing through one of my favorite franchises of all time, Uncharted, and on Fridays, we're doing a co-op playthrough of Dying Light. Also, the Days Gone podcast community now has a Discord server. Please come hang out and join the conversation. All right, today's going to be a really fun conversation. We're going to be talking about Days Gone 2! Now, I know, Days Gone 2 is not currently in development. Maybe one day it will be, but as it currently stands, there is no Days Gone 2. However, that's not going to stop us from wanting a sequel and daydreaming about what it might be like. Joining me today are three previous guests from the podcast. Ken, who is my guest on the soundtrack episode.
What's going on, y'all?
Denny, who taught us all about the divisive crossbow and convinced many of us to give it another go.
Hello.
And Spawnicus Rex, who's shared his wealth of knowledge and gameplay tips and tricks on several episodes in the past.
Hello, Days Gone podcast community.
You just wanted to say that, didn't you? How is everyone?
Man, I think it's going to be okay.
Yeah,
Doing pretty good.
Awesome. All right, so the way I want to do it is I want to break this conversation into two parts. First, I'd like to talk about story ideas, and then we can get into gameplay upgrades and open world possibilities. Let's start off with the biggest question, I guess. Who would be the main character in Days Gone 2?
Lisa. Lisa.
You're not allowed to cheat off of other people's papers.
Lisa. Lisa. I can't see your paper, ma'am.
Let's just have Deacon again.
Oh, so Ken, you think Deacon, Denny, you think Lisa, Rex, you think Lisa?
Lisa.
I would say like 50-50. I would still want Deacon to be a part of it.
Oh.
Well, right. It's like, I kind of
In
see it as
some
like
way.
I kind of see it as almost an Iron Mike and Deacon, but now the roles are, Deacon is Iron Mike's role and Lisa is in the position of Deacon. You know, she's on her redemption arc now.
Also, icing on the cake, please include more Sarah.
Oh
Right,
my gosh,
right.
yes. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, for me, I think it'd be cool to have Lisa be the protagonist, because she's set up as a drifter with not a lot in the way of like, decent bike or weapons or anything like that, and she would have to, as a main character in a video game, you would have to improve her skills and do all of that gameplay part of it. She's perfect for that. But I really want to see more of Sarah. I almost want to see like flashbacks or something, or not flashbacks, but play it a prequel that's like what happened to Sarah between getting on the chopper and being at the...
That's a prequel, not a sequel, ma'am.
Yes, no, I know, but it would be cool to somehow, if you could have the game be half and half, not to The Last of Us 2, this or anything.
Two different storylines,
But
yeah. What about like Resident Evil, like with whatever the Leon A and Claire B story or something?
Oh, well, but that would be two different. They happen simultaneously. But no, I just really want to know what was going on with Sarah. I think that's really interesting, but I don't think it's enough to carry in an entire game.
So I say DLC?
Yeah.
Yo, fuck
Sure,
yeah.
right.
Please.
It could be a bonus or an extra.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So Ken, you said Deacon, not Lisa.
Right.
What's your take on Deacon? What would you do if Deacon was in Days Gone 2? What would the story be?
Oh, how long do we have?
Go for it, as long as we need.
Okay, all right. Well, so as far as like the plot goes, I would essentially set it in about 2 years after the events of Days Gone. So, pretty much the same amount of time between Day Zero and the beginning of Days Gone. I would have it to where Lost Lake Kid kind of expanded and developed a little bit. They're not just on their little island anymore. And the three main camps, so Cascades, Hot Springs, and Lost Lake, have formed an alliance. And then Glenn Russell would lead the old militia outpost, so Diamond Lake and Wizard Island.
That would be cool to kind of see how people have gone from just barely scraping by because this event just happened to, obviously this is going to be life now, so how do we move on? How do we continue to further things?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then you know how they came up with the napalm Molotov from Weaver.
Mhm.
I said using Weaver's weapon, they've largely cleared freakers out of South Oregon. And then,
so you'd have like the whole region would kind of be a safe zone almost.
Mm.
at least it would start out that way.
Well, yeah, of course.
Or then you have to like venture outside the safe zone.
Yeah. So the Deacon and the rest of the original Lost Lake crew would essentially run the show. They've assumed their own leadership roles. And then as far as story goes, you know, the folks at Lost Lake would notice increased NERO activity. Diamond Lake and Wizard Island would respond to that by sending out more patrols, and they're noticing more freakers coming up into the valley. Hordes could flood into South Oregon, but evacuations are successful due to the patrols that have been led by a new recruit. And the patrol leader and Russell would ride ahead of the evacuees to Lost Lake, and Deacon, Boozer, and Ricky would meet Russell and the patrol leader at the front gate. But the patrol leader is Jack.
The president of the MC,
Exactly.
not the dog.
Right.
Come on.
Everybody loves good dog, but no, Jack from the MC.
Would the main like face-off of the game that's building towards the culmination of the story be Jack, the MC Prez, versus Jack, the dog?
I hadn't thought about that, but maybe.
I think something would be interesting. It would be interesting to have something that sets Deacon and Boozer against Jack for whatever reason.
Yeah, fuck yeah. That would be
Yeah.
like Jack has turned out to, he's on the wrong side or he's the new antagonist.
Even if it's just a misunderstanding or something.
Yeah, even if they reconcile later, I'd love to see something.
Snowball.
See something that kind of pits them against each other for whatever reason.
I really like the idea that it's not a misunderstanding, that they're actually have
on different sides of the line.
fundamental, fundamental differences,
Yeah.
and it's like, shit, we don't want to fight you, but you're forcing our hand.
Mm-hmm.
That would actually be really fucking cool.
Yeah,
I think you guys are actually going to really like the main villain of this plot that I got.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, so Jack, they say they blew the tunnels heading north. So they blew up those the tunnels that would allow them to get from Diamond Lake, Wizard Island up into Lost Lake territory. So it's not gonna completely stop the hordes, but it's gonna slow them down a lot. Deacon's old NERO radio starts going off. It's just some noise that Deacon can't figure out what it is. So he takes it to the main cabinet there overlooking the rest of Lost Lake to see if Ricky or Boozer know what it was. But Jack is sitting up top, recognizes it as Morse code. So they manage to ascertain that it's saying O'Brien followed by a set of coordinates. And the coordinates would lead them to the salt flats. They talked about the salt flats a lot in the days gone, but we never got to go out there.
All right, you've got my interest.
So far, I've only got one. I've only got one thing. If I recall correctly, Deacon's NERO radio was stomped by the colonel, wasn't it? It was damaged and somehow when O'Brien comes in to pick him up in the chopper to swoop him up, the radio gets broken in that scene somewhere. So I mean, obviously, okay, so they get another NERO radio.
No, he must have it because O'Brien radios him at the end and says, "Hey,
but he radios him on his regular radio."
Or regular radio, yep. NERO radio or regular radio.
He goes, he's like, "Oh, I've been trying to reach you," or whatever.
Oh, right, yeah. But yeah, we could figure out.
Yeah, there's definitely a way to work that in.
When we are making this game.
Yes.
We will figure out some way around that.
It's not a plot hole if it's intentional.
Exactly.
Right.
They figure out that O'Brien is, stuck out in the salt flats. So Deacon, Jack, and Glenn Russell launch a rescue mission to recover O'Brien. The mission is successful, but CNC's infected. The camp doesn't trust him, and they lock him up. So O'Brien talks to Deacon about how the freaks are evolving. You know, that was part of the endings from Days Gone. Says it's not happening naturally. They're being essentially modified by humans working in NERO. And the NERO higher-up that is going to be controlling the freaks would be referred to as the shaman. You know, zombies kind of like originated back in like black magic.
Right.
You think like Haiti,
yeah, voodoo,
Yeah.
yeah,
Necromancy.
exactly.
I kind of like that.
Before O'Brien fled NERO, he learned that the shaman would be more involved with field missions to track progression of new variants, and Deacon essentially, obviously, has to stop him. O'Brien has helped the camp modify their weapons so that they are now effective against the NERO suits. Deacon sneaks into a NERO landing zone, and he follows someone in a red hazmat suit as he leaves the cabin. The red hazmat suit turns around and says, "I know you're there, St. John."
Ooh. Hello.
Yeah, right. From there, Deacon reveals himself. A fight ensues. The red hazmat suit guy identifies himself as the shaman and proceeds to board a chopper. Deacon follows him, keeps fighting, and they're just going at it. And his helmet comes off. It's Captain Corey.
Oh, shit.
Right? And then essentially the new mission will be find Corey and stop him. The ending kind of be similar to what the first one would be like. You know, all the encampments get together and raid this final NERO stronghold and research facility. Deacon finds Captain Corey and starts fighting him in the essentially final boss battle. Deacon is wounded, but Corey is bleeding out really fast. And in his final moments, Corey programs the virus to attack itself, and the freakers start killing each other. And essentially, it'd be that Sarah didn't necessarily get the cure that she was looking for from Days Gone 1, but the plague is finally over and the world can rebuild.
Okay. That actually reminds me, one of the things that I wanted to bring up was Corey being in Reno, I believe is the
Area
stated
they said
destination.
they were going.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Thought it'd be really cool if we could expand the map or maybe take on a new area. And Corey could be the main character or close to the main character. Like you could have a completely made up new character and have Corey
Supporting.
be like, supporting character, and have it set in that kind of location, that locale, or even somewhere halfway between Oregon and Reno. Like I don't really know the geography very well, but somewhere that's a slightly different kind of environment.
Honestly, I think Colorado would be cool. A pretty cool location. Just Colorado's
Definitely.
geography.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Fuck yeah.
Fuck yeah.
Denny, did you have a story in mind when you said Lisa?
No. There's
Not as in depth as that anyway.
Yeah, no. nothing after that.
Yeah.
Because that's the thing with Days Gone 1 is the story, the emotional arc is really what makes it super special. So it would be like, who do you pick? Like, if it is Lisa, we've already seen her emotional. She's already lost her family. She's already accepted being alone. She's already been through a lot. A lot of it happens off screen, but like she's had an emotional journey. You'd have to kind of make from whole cloth a new emotional arc for her.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I do have some thoughts on Lisa as the protagonist. It's my perception that most of Days Gone was actually setting up Lisa as the protagonist for part 2. As early as like when you first meet her, and like when Deacon taking the thunder egg to her, that is where Deacon's redemption arc really starts. So she is, Lisa is an integral part of Deacon's redemption arc. That's where it all starts. That's where he starts wanting to help at least a person, if not wanting to help people, wanting to help a person.
Right.
That's where it starts for him. And then, he goes on his redemption arc.
Sorry, just to interject, it's
Yeah.
even a little bit behind that. It's he realizes that he can help, that he has the potential
he is in
and
a position
opportunity
to help. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's
Sure.
like, oh, actually, shit,
I
we
should
used
be
to do
doing
this.
more
Humans used to help each other out and have empathy and be kind to each other and
Yeah.
not sell each other as slaves.
Yeah. So with Lisa being such a core part of Deacon's redemption arc, if you're looking closely, you actually see she's very important to the story itself. And then later at the end, when, you know, we do the at the very end of the game, post credits and everything, where you meet Lisa and she is now drifting, and Deacon is now Iron Mike in the camp, counseling her to temper her, you know, wildness a little bit. And
Father figure.
yes, come in the camp and get some supply. You know, you don't have to stay. Just come in the camp and get some supplies. Let me introduce you to the bounty collector. I'll introduce you to so-and-so. Get some supplies. You got ammo? You good? Okay. You know, and so he is training her to be, you know, even imparting some of the military training into tactics and, you know, reading the battlefield, things like that. You know, teaching her how to upgrade her weapons and shit like that. I see that as being a big part of how she levels up and acquires new skills. You know, instead of going and do a hunting mission with Copeland, you'll go do a mission with Deacon, showing you how to do stealth kills or do sniper kills or something like that, you know, to introduce gameplay mechanics. You'll have Deacon being the mentor. So I felt it was natural that the game part 1 really seemed to be setting up Lisa as the protagonist for part 2, or at least another major driving character in the story, if not the protagonist.
Yeah, I concur. It does feel like that's the natural progression of it. Let me ask you guys. So if, say, for example, they decide, or it was decided that Days Gone 2 should be in a completely different area. So you can't have Lisa, you can't have Deacon, you can't have Boozy, you can't have Sarah. It's a completely different part of the world. What kind of location or what part of the world would be interesting? What would we want to see?
Globally or in the States? Globally?
Globally or just in the States, whatever.
Yeah. Well, I do agree with Ken. Colorado's a great idea. However, the only problem there is it's also in some ways very similar to the Pacific Northwest, just as far as, you know, lots of mountains and pines and, you know, creeks and rivers. It's similar in that way, but that's also what makes it cool. Is like, well, yeah, it's the same but different, you know.
Yeah.
Or you can go way off in left field and set it in a place like where I'm from. I'm from originally from the Savannah area. So if you've ever been out to Georgia, honestly, I would say it can be pretty interesting, especially if you want to like involve survival mechanics. Like honestly, it's like the heat and some of the wildlife can just be grueling.
Coastal Georgia.
Coastal.
Yeah, freaker mosquitoes.
I mean,
please no.
I do saying that's are bad enough. We don't need
it's
to.
a horror game, but
then it could be a waking nightmare.
Yeah, if we're talking Days Gone 2, we're going to get to freaker variants. It's on the list.
Yeah, definitely.
But I think a terrain with like somewhere that's like really flat. You know, you get in certain places and it's just miles and hundreds of miles of just flat fucking nothing. Something like that. It would be interesting to see waves of massive hordes rolling across just an open field of nothing, you know. What
I would love to see, and this would be perfect for that, is the Southern California region. So Los Angeles and the surrounding flat desert area. Like
the area
like
that's
Lancaster.
supposed to be like overrun with hordes and stuff.
Yeah. And just think if you had like in the original, you have the Cascades, you have Belknap, you have Lost Lake, and south of the mountains, they have like different kind of topography. Yeah. You could have like the city of LA being one zone, and then the desert outside of it being another.
Yeah.
And then there's not much variation from that, but you do have kind of heading north, you have the old farmlands, which would have become arid because it's all like an irrigated desert.
Yeah.
But it would be kind of cool to see because there's a lot of hills. And
nobody's out there managing the irrigation or anything. So it's just
maybe it's automated, or maybe it's automated like Cloverdale. So everything's still growing. Right. And then think about like the Bay Area, the difference in the weather systems.
Being on
just
the coast.
A little bit
stuff,
up the coast. Yeah. That could be kind of cool to see a city, but then also see, like Rex said, the wasteland outside of the city and just hordes, and the population. There's like 9 million people, I think, in Southern California. That prompts
another question for me when you're done.
Go ahead.
So that, you bring up things like the LA area and stuff like that, and we're asking, what type of geography or region would you like to see it in? Let's do more broad strokes for my question. Would you like to see more the game based in like a highly populated area where there's, millions and millions of freaks because you're near large cities? Or would you prefer to see it in a more remote area, or even maybe a bit of both, where you're in a remote area where you have to venture into the populated areas?
I will say, I feel like as games go, when you look at game franchises, they're always looking at ways to make it bigger, more enemies. We have 500 freaks at the sawmill. You know that some executive somewhere at Sony or whatever is going to say, okay, so for the sequel, we need a horde of
10,000.
5,000. Yeah.
freaks.
So you have to go to the populated areas to get that, to make it make sense. Personally, I love a good survival, scavenge, like more of a desolate world. So I would like to see it somewhere really remote, more remote. Not Antarctica, but something like that. Like, I don't know, like Patagonia or somewhere like a massive national park that is, essentially not populated, but has been taken over by wandering freaks and then freaker animals and shit like that. Make it more survivalistic.
I think it would definitely be interesting to see how they would incorporate like an urban area, or like you were saying, somewhere where you have to kind of venture into the very dangerous city or something to get certain items, or to find, procure something or save someone, or, whatever. But that would be interesting, especially with the amount of detail, and like if it was a good sequel, because there's always the chance that the sequel could be a huge letdown. So if it's a good sequel, and this is, the perfect imaginings of every Days Gone fan ever, you could have like the same level of detail, and the same, like, you find the random like murder suicides in the campsite with all the children's toys, and the, all the weird, strange environments in Days Gone 1. If that translated to a huge city, there would be like so much to explore and so many different things to experience that I think that would be interesting.
Yeah, definitely.
Sure.
Honestly, it kind of sounds like Days Gone meets GTA 5. Yeah, I'm not gonna lie, I'm good with it. I have to say,
I'm all about it. Yeah,
yeah, I'm all about it. But I have to say that going into a populated city like Los Angeles in a situation like Days Gone sounds like an absolute nightmare.
Right.
Well, this is 4 years later, so a little more abandoned, I guess.
Yeah, you would have fewer human enemies because a lot of people would have died.
And they've already
definitely
killed
be
them,
staying away from the cities.
killed each other.
Yeah. Now, that would be a cool thing to see. And we're almost kind of getting into more of like a Mad Max kind of world, where it's like the new camps, the ones that have survived. I mean, maybe it's a bit Walking Dead as well. The ones that do survive the harshness of the new world. What are they like? Like, you can have some really fucking cool human enemies, like the, the marauders and the ambush camps and the anarchists and the rippers. Like, what's the next thing from the rippers? What's
Who
the
are
next
the
thing from the
people
anarchists? Yeah.
who survived out of the survivors?
Yeah. What badasses are running the world outside of the, more altruistic places like Lost Lake?
Yeah, you definitely want to see more of the more variety of human enemy types. There's only so much you can do with human enemy AI, but the factions, like whatever the ideology and politics or religion of that faction may be, whatever their cult may be, you want to know what the next antagonist is going to be.
Right,
I guess
right.
I hadn't even thought about that. Who's our next antagonist? I just kind of assumed Nero, not necessarily O'Brien, but Nero.
Yeah. Let's talk about that for a minute. So, I mean, Ken, you had some great ideas. Dandy Denny, what do you think Nero would be up to in, 4 or 5 years after the collapse? Are they still, I assume they're still around, probably? I mean, they have to be the antagonists of this game.
I do feel like they would have to be involved somehow. There was too much of a cliffhanger from the, quote, secret ending, for it to not be involved somehow. But the way the cutscene plays out, it almost seems like O'Brien wanted to warn Deacon, but almost wasn't in control of himself fully. So I almost feel like we've got like a hive mind situation, except one person is in control, or one entity is in control, and not each individual freak. So I think that would be interesting. They've got, all these, quote, smart freakers or evolved freakers, but they don't really have control of themselves necessarily.
That's a really interesting point, because the freaks themselves, the hordes, they act like they are a hive mind.
Yeah.
So if NERO is creating intelligent freaks, then they're still going to be freaks. They're still going to have that hive mentality.
Well, it makes me wonder, does it work like, I don't know, it's similar to the creatures known as the Geth from Mass Effect that I'm playing right now. That's a hive mind thing, but each unit has its own level of intelligence, and it's kind of like a cloud computing thing. Like the extreme intelligence of this unit adds to the extreme intelligence of this unit, adds to the extreme intelligence of this unit, and the sum is greater than its parts. And the hive mind is just fucking super incredibly brilliant, even though they're all being directed by whatever entity is directing the hive mind. Still, it's the intelligence of each individual creature adds to the intelligence of the group,
right,
making them even more dangerous.
That's fucking awesome. But they're still isolated and on their own. They're still intelligent enemies, intelligent foes.
Exactly.
But they have the ability to draw. It's almost like in the Matrix, where they can
even trade information with each other.
I know kung fu, download it into the brains or something.
Yeah.
You are now a sharpshooter.
Yeah.
So I had some more ideas for things I'd like to see in the story.
Go ahead,
of
please.
Part 2. So I think for Hot Springs Camp, I've always thought Hot Springs Camp was a bit of a wasted opportunity, really. I think that in a sequel, Alkai, he knows the shit. He knows what's up. He knows the terrain. He knows the land. He knows the camp. I see Alkai in a situation where he gets enough support from other members of the camp to run off Tucker and her goons.
I don't buy it.
I do.
I mean, I would want to see that.
I think
but
there would be enough people who would be like, you know what, we're tired of this bitch. Get her out of here. If we can isolate her 4 or 5 top goons, get her and those assholes out of here, then we can run the camp our way.
It could be more opportunistic than that, even, because, she is elderly, and this is already a very harsh world, and there aren't very many people of that age still around, specifically because they got sick and died.
Causes,
so
maybe.
It might just be she dies, and then he's like, all right, let's move and get rid of the people who were supporting her and take over a miniature coup.
Yeah, what if Alkai and a bunch of people just do a mass exodus? And they're just like...
They just leave and start their own camp even. Yeah. Well, there is that, yeah. I didn't really see Alkai being the kind of guy who wouldn't pull a schizo and be like, all right, well, let's stab this motherfucker in the back. Let's go stab Tucker in the back and get her out of place. But I could see Alkai gathering enough support from other people within the camp to run Tucker and her goons off.
If it's been a hard winter and they never got
something
the
goes
food
bad,
and, it's like there's
Tucker's
already
really
a riot.
not in favor with her camp. Yeah.
Or even Alkai doesn't lead it. There is just a riot, an uprising, and then everyone's like, Alkai should lead.
You're in charge now.
And he's like,
fuck.
Okay.
Right.
That I would buy. That I could see.
Sure, I dig that. Yeah, I can see that. Or even the same thing like Deney was saying, Tucker passes away of natural causes, and everybody's like, hey, Alkai, it's you, man, you're up. So I could see something like that. The only other thing I really had for something I'd like to see in the story is if Boozer is at all present in the sequel, Ricky needs to build him a trike, a 3-wheeled motorcycle.
There you go.
Something operated with an ice cream scoop.
I mean, shit, he could just have a big truck or something.
He could, but no, he wants to be on the open road. He wants a bike. He needs to be on a bike of some sort. So
he needs the wind going through his lack of hair.
The wind passing through the tattoos on his scalp.
The wind's, caressing the ink.
The tattoos.
Yeah. So I think definitely Ricky, or maybe even some of the guys from the military camp, could scavenge and get enough shit together to build him a modified trike that could be operated with one arm.
I mean, there are plenty of amputees that have bikes and ride bikes, it's definitely a thing that can happen.
Absolutely, yeah. And that was my first thought. And the first was like, dude, okay, Ricky built Boozer a prosthetic arm from a fucking ice cream scoop. Please tell me you can also modify a trike for him.
She knows how to weld. She knows mechanics. She knows how to get shit.
Yeah,
put shit together.
that should definitely be done.
Or you could go all the way get Boozer a tank. I mean, you got all those assets. You got
I thought
all
you were
those
gonna say
assets
robotic
from the military.
arm.
Just be like, you know what? I don't need a bike. I'm just gonna roll down, the Santiam Highway in a freaking M1 Abrams. Let's
Just
go.
crush everything in its path.
Well, they did want to weaponize Boozer, so there is that.
Yeah.
Right?
That's a
They
good
could
way
put
to
like
do
a rocket launcher on his arm.
Oh,
I was
The
thinking
God.
knife.
chainsaw. Yeah. Well, speaking of weaponizing Boozer, another thought that I had was just like to get him a weapon. If he's going to be on his trike, he's going to need to be armed, right? So I see perhaps Deacon passing down like the little stubby shotgun, the little
That's
double
kinda
barrel.
ironic.
No, here's. I mean. It seems funny at first, but here's where I'm going with this. Something like, hey brother, you gave me your shotgun when you couldn't use it anymore. So here's a shotgun to replace it that I don't need, but can still be operated one-handed because you can keep it in the crook of your arm with the breech open and put shells in. Another thing I was thinking was maybe if he were to carry the Mayor, which is the revolver that you unlock from at the end of the game when you beat the Colonel. The Mayor
shotguns.
is actually a revolver that shoots shotgun shells, and it would be a revolver would be fairly easy to operate for a one-handed individual if you had speed loaders for it. So of course, be a little bit of suspension of disbelief. You'd have to get speed loaders for it, but
But they
That's
can
not that
find a
hard.
fucking Uzi and they get
I know, right?
several of them
Yeah,
because
you
you
know,
can
and-
buy
Yeah.
multiple versions of the SMP9.
fucking Ricky
so-
can make one.
Yeah.
They
machine
said
a speed loader.
they had the ability to make ammunition of every kind and every caliber.
He did
So
say that. Yeah, so surely
that's
they
it.
can make
Hand
speed
wave,
loaders
it's
for
done.
revolvers. Yeah, done. Yeah, right. So yeah, I think something like that. Boozer, if Boozer is present in the sequel, he needs to have a trike, and there needs to be a situation where Deacon is shown passing him a weapon, or just he's using a weapon. We're like, oh, Deacon gave him that.
Yeah.
You gave up your shotgun when Deacon needed it, and you couldn't use it anymore. So Deacon has shared some of his arsenal with you, shit that you can use that we recognize from the first one. Like, oh, I know that gun. Something like
Yeah.
that.
Or get
and
this.
he also has an attack dog named Jack.
Copy that. Yeah. Who rides in a sidecar on the trike?
There you go. Now, how
Or
about
a
I mean,
this?
little,
he did
little
look
A
spot-
little
like a
doggy
husky.
thing on the trike. Yeah. The sidecar wouldn't work, but a little something to put him in. Yeah.
He
What
could
were you
pull
gonna
a
say, Claire?
sled.
I was going to say, speaking of Boozer, we haven't talked about putting Boozer in the sequel, apart from he should have a
Bike and a
weapon.
gun.
Yeah, a trike and a gun. What would you do with Boozer in the sequel? Because if you're putting Deacon in or Lisa, or you have to have Boozer. Is it time for Boozer to get his,
Get his own camp.
story? Oh, well, I don't know if he'd want
Start
that.
another
No, no,
camp
no.
somewhere.
But his own emotional story, something that's
Yeah,
because
yeah.
he goes through fucking shit in the first one and doesn't really come out he comes out worse.
Yeah, sure.
He loses his arm, he doesn't get his wife back. Deacon gets his wife back. Deacon gets all the sort of gets to lead the camp
Recognition,
and all
yeah.
of that, and it's like Boozer gets a dog. Cool, but the dog is
Maybe-
only a symbol of well done, you didn't kill yourself. Here, have a puppy.
Anti-depression device.
God, that's
Yes,
Yeah, right.
yeah. So it's great. Boozer ends up armless and on
That's a support
antidepressants.
animal. Yeah.
Well, maybe Boozer gets a girlfriend or gets another old lady. You can
Tucker.
move on after you lose somebody.
Tucker.
So,
Oh, God.
Ken, no.
All right, Ken, you're out. You're done. Yeah, kill his feed. And we're out of
denied.
here. Unsubscribe.
I was thinking maybe a slight bit closer to his age.
Do we
and
actually know
level
how
of
old?
attractiveness.
Oh
Yeah.
man, yeah.
Yeah, it would be cooler to see Boozer have a
Nah,
a
Boozer
love
hooks up
story
with
or
Crystal.
something. Oh God!
Boozer hooks up with Crystal.
no.
Yeah.
Oh my word!
Oh god.
Hooks up with or murders?
Why not both?
Yeah, right. I mean,
Or Fergie from Wizard Island.
which one is that?
Or actually, I think it's
Oh.
Oh, is
Diamond
that
Lake.
the-
Fergie is the arms dealer at Wizard Island, or not Wizard
Oh,
Island. Yeah.
Oh, it would be cool to see some of the people from the camps
Having
the
other
merchants,
roles or
having
something, yeah.
what they do next. I really I don't know if that's the one you're talking about, Ken, the Asian lady in Diamond Lake.
oh yeah.
Yeah,
That's
Diamond
the,
Lake, the
that's the,
bounty collector.
the
That's
bounty
the bounty
collector, yeah.
collector. Yeah.
Yeah, I really haven't listened to much of her dialogue ever in all my playthroughs because I don't really do. We all know this. I don't really go to the merchants. I don't really care about that stuff
Or sell
in the game.
bounties or any
or
of
sell
that.
bounties. But she seems really cool, and she's wearing the NERO
Mhm.
hazmat suit. But it's well, she's not in NERO, so it would be really cool to see where she got it and why she has it.
Yeah, right.
Because she seems like kind of a badass, but like low key, nice, pleasant, but fucking badass.
Mhm.
She'd be awesome.
It's always
Yeah,
the
she
quiet
always
ones.
surprise
Yeah,
She's the
Dandy
kind of
Danny.
girl who's not afraid to be wrist deep in freaker ears.
Yeah, she's
Yeah.
not squeamish.
You've got to have a certain mindset to be the bounty collector, I guess.
And a really, really
Exactly.
strong stomach.
Yes, yeah. All right, guys, let's switch over. Let's start talking about the gameplay,
Yeah.
upgrades, mechanics, some different things we'd want to see in the world. I know Rex is really excited about this, but take it away.
All right, so gameplay. All right, so number one, Claire and I are on the same page here. Absolutely no, please not ever any pop-up cards. Please do away with pop-up cards in the gameplay of Days Gone 2.
So what you're talking about here is when you kill a horde, and it's the Rimview Ranch Horde, and gives you've
Yeah.
unlocked this, and you've earned this much
Yeah.
XP, and it's like, oh my god, like they haven't
So
even hit
If
the
it
ground
if it
yet.
must stay in the game, we need to work on the timing there because
yeah,
can we
that
at
too,
least
but here-
complete the objective before the card pops up,
Or like put it
So-
up top and put it at the top of the screen or something like that.
Yeah, exactly.
or an
Ken,
option to turn it off.
Turn it off. Yeah. So to be more specific, I do mean really the infestation zones when you clear an infestation zone or when you kill a horde, like Claire was saying, because quite often if you're clearing a nest, there's still freaks running around when that pop-up card comes up.
Mhm.
If you're killing a horde, well, there's probably a few stragglers still running around after you've killed the horde. So what happens is you're lined up for the next shot, and that pop-up card comes up and actually interrupts the flow of combat. So it should, like Ken said, it should be like a little kind of transparent pop up in the corner of the screen that, stays up for a few seconds so you can read it before it fades or something like that. So the ones like when you do storyline progress, like you step outside of the infirmary and you finish the He's My Brother storyline. Okay, that's cool because you're
Those
not
are-
interrupting the flow of combat.
And those are always timed so that it's like
Yes.
Deacon is still
And they
slowly
provide
Yeah.
good
working or
info
something.
too.
Yeah,
They
It
provide
also
really useful
doesn't-
information.
It doesn't like pop up while Ricky's still talking to you or
Right.
something.
It doesn't
you know?
interrupt the flow.
It's
Yeah.
timed better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So number one right there, no pop
And
up
can
cards.
I just add on the
Yeah.
back of that, Dandy Denny just said about things popping up when Ricky's talking or something.
Yes.
The timing of
Radio.
Oh,
the
yes.
radio calls,
Yeah,
not to be overly picky, overly critical, but they need to smooth that out. They really do.
I recall an instance just the other day where you were playing. I think we were just playing for fun. I don't think it was on one of your streams. I think we were just doing something, and you had literally like 3 different radio pop-ups trying to override each other. You had
It was on the stream, and there was,
was it?
it
Radio
was
free organ.
Job
Mhm.
and Tucker or Ricky or someone saying, "Hey, come back to the camp," and then Copeland.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh my
it's like
god,
3 different
calm
radio
down.
calls overlapping. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, I
Sure.
don't want to talk to any of you, much less all 3 of you at the same time.
Yeah, I'm gonna skip all of these if I can.
Oh, and skippable radio calls as well. Like when it's like, oh, hey, just letting you know that person that you rescued got back to camp. Okay, it's like, can I just skip
Yeah,
that?
skip. Cool. Yeah.
Don't need
Like,
to hear it.
I really don't care if they got back to camp. Okay. Just let me do my thing.
Yeah, right. I don't care that.
I'm
I
Deacon
got
St.
the
John.
XP.
I don't give a shit.
Yeah, I got the XP. I don't care if they made it back to camp, dude. I got what I needed.
I got my
Is it
credits.
Boozer or
I got
Sarah?
mine.
Then I don't care.
Yeah. Okay, so I have another one here. Other freaker variants. We mentioned that earlier. We need to see what new freaker variants. Now,
Spiders.
Ew,
Oh, God, no.
Why? That's
I
almost
actually-
as bad as the mosquitoes.
I don't mind spiders. I'm not one of those people who freaks out because of spiders. In fact, I'm rather fond of them and the purpose that they serve in the ecosystem. But freaker spiders, really?
I just think it would be
let's
the
just have
most
shark freakers that can walk on land. Come
Have
on.
you ever been around a very aggressive spider species? Because that's different. The spiders who just hang out and eat bugs, it's like, okay, all right, we can coexist. But the ones that are like, some of the different ones in the tarantula family, or there's one of them, the camel spiders, they will freaking chase you. They're angry.
The spiders that are all like, I will cut a bitch.
Yes,
the ones.
yes.
I mean, there's what are the ones called that will eat? Are they bird tarantulas? Or so there's like tarantulas
Fuck
that
if
will
I know.
eat birds. I forget what they're
probably.
called.
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Like,
I think bird tarantulas.
So
I just think that would be absolutely fucking terrifying. Imagine the sawmill filled with spiders,
cobwebs
that are aggressive.
everywhere.
Oh.
When you walk into a freaker cave, instead of it being covered in mud and blood and shitty footprints and everything, instead there's webbing everywhere with
It
faces
was
sticking out of the webbing and
terrifying.
mud and blood and shit all over the
I mean,
webbing. Yeah.
As an arachnophobe, I would absolutely hate that. But I think it would. I think it would be really
be killer, yeah.
interesting
It
to
would be killer.
see insects or arachnids or something. And I think spiders would just be. They're universally hated
Terrifying,
and feared
yeah,
and
sure,
terrible. Yeah,
sure.
So I think that would be a kind of a cool one. What else could we put in?
I have 2.
Okay, go ahead.
And then I'll shut up and let y'all talk for a minute. This is the part I've been excited about. Okay, so for me, we have wolves and we have infected wolves. We have mountain lions, but we do not have
Right.
infected mountain lions.
I was waiting for that in the first game.
I would like to see some infected big cats like that, because you do have mountain lions and pumas and stuff in lots of places.
That's
Even
another one that would be terrifying.
bobcats would be bad enough,
Oh! Can I just interject with an idea? What if there was part of it that was near a zoo and the animals had
my
escaped?
God.
Oh my
In
god.
fact, there's like just
Infected
just a
giraffes
few-
and shit.
or like
Oh, wait, no,
lions
I've
or
got it.
something.
You
What?
could have like your The Last of Us moment where Joel and Ellie are marveling at the giraffes.
The giraffe
But in
turns
Days
and
Gone 2,
runs
the
towards
giraffe is
them.
stomping around, fucking shit up, eating people.
The giraffe is
I
like a
would-
breaker.
I do think it would be interesting to have more species that are not typically considered aggressive. Like the wolves and the bears and the mountain lions and, all the animals that the variants that you had in Days Gone were all animals that can be naturally aggressive sometimes, towards humans or towards other smaller animals. But to have, like O'Brien talked about the deer and stuff. How would a infected deer behave? Because you're talking about deer are usually like, hey, give me some corn and strawberries. We can be friends,
Right.
Whereas instead, this one's trying to like eat your face or something.
Or do they just go munch the shit out of some grass because they're really aggressive deer?
They're aggressively going to eat your crops.
Really oh, hey, actually, Denny, you just hit on something. That would be something interesting as a, we talked about, well, what's the antagonist? What is the, what is it that they're fighting against? Well, one of the factors, impeding your survival may be infected herbivores that are destroying your crops.
Or it would be interesting to see more intelligent animals,
Plants
too.
versus zombies.
Like primates or we talked about crazy other locations. Like if you had animals that were higher on the intelligence scale, like elephants or primates or something like that, where you would see something that's not quite as smart as humans, but getting pretty close there and definitely smarter than the average wolf or the average bear or...
I tell you what, infected primate just sounds like a nightmare.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, like gorillas and shit.
Like
That'd be
Days
fucking
Gone meets
terrifying.
Planet of the Apes.
Yeah. Well, the only other one that I had specifically for variants of Freaker's infected animals specifically was, all right, so we have wolves and we have infected wolves, which are the runners. But what about dogs?
That's what I was going to say.
They mentioned
even
that.
Boozer says, they're not
infected.
infected or anything. So I think it would be interesting. A truly terrifying enemy that I think would be packs of wild dogs that are infected.
Well, they talk about that in some of the like journal entries in the game, because the reason the Rippers are hunting the uninfected dogs is because once they get infected, they turn into runners who start eating freaks. And the Rippers don't want anything to hurt the freaks.
That's right. There is storyline on that. I forgot about that. Yeah.
Technically, they do have infected dogs. They're just runners, I guess.
I see.
Right.
Yeah, see, I was thinking
Whichever
packs of
ones
infected
survive.
dogs. Yeah.
Now, you mentioned packs. There's one thing that I would want to see is I want to see hordes forming in the open world. So there's like every night you go out, you see a few freaks wandering around. The next night you go out, a few of the freaks have turned into a swarm. You go out again, that swarm has grown in size. Suddenly now it's a horde. If you don't deal with it, that horde might meet up with another horde and form a mega horde. Like imagine being able to see with better computing power behind it. See in real time hordes forming, and you could have like more freaks on harder difficulties and things like that, so the hordes get bigger or they grow faster. That could be really fucking cool.
That's like there's a... Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I like that idea. However, y'all know me from my perspective. I want to game the game. I don't like to let the chaos run wild in the world.
Chaos.
Here's my thing, though. The reason I think a way to make that work, what you're talking about, because I know me personally, if you put a mechanic like that in a game where you can see somewhere outside the camp, there's 5 or 6 freaks starting to wander around, and the next day there's 8 to 12 freaks starting to wander around, and hey, there's a horde forming over there. I'm the type of gamer, I will kill everyone before they have a chance to form into a horde. I don't want the hordes running. Hang on, I have a thought on that to make it work in game. I think it would be interesting to include a mechanic like that where they're popping up in so many places within the world, you cannot possibly eliminate them all. You will bump into random hordes like that from time to time if you have them, out in certain places, like the same, like the spot where hordes form in the world where they hang out in their cave over here, whatever. But there's so many of them, you cannot possibly stay on top of it.
Right.
You can try to reduce their numbers, but you will not be able to stop it from happening.
It's like in the original where, you take out the hordes, but there's always freaks. You cannot cannot clear Belknap of freaks and then go to Cascades and clear Cascades of freaks.
Yeah.
It'd be the same as that, but they're hordes. They're just constantly spawning and forming, and like you will be off doing a story mission in Lost Lake. Meanwhile, Belknap has 3 hordes that are coming together into one mega horde or whatever. That you can't stop
Maybe you
it.
can catch one before they form into a real horde, but those other 2 are still there and they're still working on making a bigger horde.
And it would also be kind of, in a way,
where it's more dynamic.
Some of it would be, well, what's the point? Like, you can go after them, but you probably should just leave them and avoid it. And then it becomes a different kind of gameplay where you have to like avoid certain areas because, oh shit, you didn't take care of that horde and now there's like 2,000 of them.
Right.
But I think, I'm not saying to like massively overfill the world. Like maybe the hordes would then, if they reach a certain size, they would break apart.
Maybe it's
things like
somewhat
half
random.
Of them,
venture off to different feeding areas.
Yeah, some of them would
break
chase
up
a deer
and some move on, and some
yeah.
just sort of disappear. And you're like, hey, I thought there was a really big horde here, and now I'm just on edge because I'm like, where is it?
Exactly, yeah. And there would be game mechanics happening in the background that like limit it or whatever.
Maximum threshold stuff.
Yeah, and you could also have like story hordes that are always there. There is always a horde at the sawmill. There is always a horde at the Belknap Caves, ambush camp. Whatever it is, you can have the ones that are programmed in, but then you'd have this sort of more dynamic world happening in the background, like you do in the first one with just the random freaks, but have them start to form hordes.
Cool. Yeah, I dig it.
I was going to say, there's several games that have sort of a like, keep an eye on your map kind of mechanic where like the different factions, it's like, oh, the bad guys are building influence in this area and it's, it's getting close to red, you're losing control of this district or whatever, that sort of type of thing where it's, oh, this area is becoming overrun. People are starting to evacuate. You're starting to have more mouths to feed at Lost Lake because everybody's clearing out of Belknap because there's like a mega horde that you didn't clear or something, It could be incorporated into other parts of the game.
Yeah, and not to make it too much of a different game. I said earlier that this is what video games tend to do, is they tend to amp everything up.
Make it too different, too big.
Yeah, and it's like, I kind of would like it to be more survival-y, keep it smaller, but I think that's something that, for me, it would add more chaos to the world, and I kind of like that. It would make it feel more real, as long as it had a threshold and wasn't just, if you leave it, you end up with a horde of 20,000.
Guess what? Now there's billions of freaks in your game world, and you can't step outside the camp or you're fucking dead.
Better start a new game.
Yeah, time to start a new game. Don't fuck up next time.
Yeah. Did you have more stuff, Rex?
I do have a few more on just, gameplay stuff that we want in part 2. And here is my thing. I'll throw this out there because I know there's multiple opinions here. Should the crossbow be in the sequel? And hang on, I'm not done yet.
Oh my God.
In what way should it be implemented? Because
I didn't know that was even a question.
Well, hang on though. There's 2 things that I think of for the crossbow that, in my opinion, would actually make it useful. And those 2 things are, if there were some way to have it with you in the field at all times without taking up your sniper rifle slot. So,
I love that you call it the sniper rifle.
Yeah, that
agreed. Agreed. I wish you could carry like different assortments of weapons. So that would definitely be an improvement.
I think you'll find it's actually called the MG55 slot.
I know, machine guns go in that slot too, but that's the sniper rifle slot. That's not where your crossbow goes. But for real though, so like if you could keep the crossbow with you in the field somehow, whether it is, something that's slung over his back, but he's already got weapons on his back, or even like a pistol style crossbow, a pistol grip size crossbow that hangs on your hip, or, something that you can mount to the crossbar of the handlebars, something like that where you could actually have the crossbow with you in the field, I think would be really cool.
I hear what you're saying and I don't disagree, but I do like the limitations of you have a realistic number of holsters that you can put weapons into. And as we learned in the drifter bike episode of the podcast from Josh, he said that
it affects the weight and
everything
balance.
affects the weight and balance of the bike. Even Boozer's shotgun being on the forks of Boozer's bike is so unrealistic because it would really affect the weight and the balance. So I hear what you're saying. I know it's a video game. It would be cool. I would use the crossbow a lot more if I didn't have to give up my sniper rifle for it. But it is, in a way, a sniper rifle. If you want to...
Bullshit.
No, if you want to...
I am cheesing. I am just teasing.
Not good at the crossbow.
But you can... It's about a play style. If you want to use the crossbow rather than the sniper rifle, it's a play style. So it's letting you have that versatility. I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, but if there was a special crossbow slot, I don't think you would ever use it still.
Yes, I actually would. There are...
okay, except for doing the nest, the kerosene.
Right,
yes,
I do use it for burning out the nest. But no, I wouldn't mind having some explosive bolts handy. I wouldn't mind having stuff like that. I was about to say I wouldn't mind having residue bolts handy, but I do not find enough value in them to, take up my sniper rifle slot with something that lets me throw pointy sticks with a piece of string.
That's because you're not doing it right.
I know, Danny, you said it best. You said it best. Just because you are shit with that weapon does not mean it's a shitty weapon. And I have to give it to you, ma'am. You are not wrong. Yeah, just because I suck at the crossbow does not mean it's a sucky weapon. I get it.
But I definitely, even as much as I love the crossbow, I wish I could have the crossbow and the sniper rifle because you use them for totally different things.
Exactly.
There is some overlap. But
sure.
They still, I would probably carry those two and a sidearm, and that would be my ideal setup.
Yeah. Shit, my crossbow could be my primary, just about, as long as I had a sniper rifle in the SMP9.
Oh, what if you just had 3 weapon slots?
And you could do
whatever you want in those slots.
You could carry 3 sniper rifles if you wanted to. Well, the crossbow, the drifter crossbow, and a rock.
I do love that idea. Yeah, I do love that idea, though, because that's one thing. Until I figured it out.
You still have to make a choice, but you have a little more flexibility in your choice. And it would give more customization.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, when I started playing Days Gone, I felt a little bit restricted with the fact that you could only have certain weapons in the primary slot, certain weapons in the special. I was like, okay, I'm having trouble finding synergy in gear here because I can only have this and this or that and not the ones I actually fucking want. But, of course, later you unlock better stuff and you're like, oh, okay, this one works well here. This one works well here. But yeah, if I could have the crossbow with me without taking up one of the other weapon slots, I actually would carry it and I would use it from time to time. One last thing about the crossbow that I think the crossbow should have in part 2, optics. Should definitely be optics for the crossbow.
Explain, what does that mean?
Yes, ma'am. So let's say for folks who know nothing about firearms or optics or anything like that, when you are using a sniper rifle in Days Gone, I'm talking about in-game, and you aim with your scope, you have that black circle with the little black cross in the middle of it. Rather than that, you could actually have a scope on the crossbow, but even just a red dot sight where it's a black circle with a nice bright red dot in the center of, it's kind of like a center screen dot in the center of that. That would make that weapon so much more effective.
I think that would make sense if you had a different main character. I think the issue why you don't have that is Deacon's not very good with the crossbow. So you're saying if it was more of a imagined scope, if it didn't have a real scope on it, but when you bring it up, it's like the character knows how to aim. He or she is helping you lock in where you're actually aiming. I'd like to think that Deacon's just not very good with the crossbow, so that's why it's just kind of like sort of like maybe
fucky
I'll
sometimes.
it's like
You have
maybe
to
I'll hit him,
overcome
maybe I
his
won't.
handicap.
Yeah, like it's a representation of how good he is with the crossbow. And that would actually be something that's really cool if you had a skill tree that you could level up. Let's say you have primary, sidearm, and special, you could level up those in a ranged skill tree. So you can make your character a better sniper, but they would to the detriment of the other weapons. So it's like you'd be really good at sniping, but you would put fewer skill points to spend on aiming with the shotgun or reload times, things like that for like close up weapons.
Yeah, that's very similar to how games like some of the Elder Scrolls games have done it kind of that way. The skills that you are using are the skills that increase. If you're not using your shotgun, well, then you're not getting skill with shotguns. If you are using a sniper rifle, then you are getting skill with your sniper.
Because you're getting more practice.
Yeah, it's like I'm thinking Skyrim specifically. Yeah, like Skyrim, if you're swinging a sword, you get better at swinging a sword, but you don't get better at swinging your axe because you haven't been swinging. So yeah, so like if you're using the crossbow, you get better with it. But my point specifically was I want attachable or an upgrade, some sort of actual an optic on the crossbow of some sort. Red dot sight, actual crosshair, scope. I don't care. Just some sort of actual optic on it would be fucking great.
I would say you could put an ACOG on the crossbow, but I think the optic would probably cost more than the crossbow.
Yeah, that might be overkill. Yeah, but yeah, just like a little red dot sight or something with a little bit of zoom. Maybe 4 times zoom on it, just something casual. Like would be great. It would make that weapon so much more useful, in my opinion.
I mean, in theory, you could just take, like, if it was the real world, you could take the scope off a rifle and put it on a crossbow.
Absolutely.
Like, you could find a way to attach it.
Yeah, they are. Yeah, it's universal mounts.
Ricky could put it on and then add an ice cream scoop, and you could have sniping an ice cream.
And hey, you could take Boozer's knife arm and have a bayonet on the end of your crossbow too.
Oh God!
Woo! Yeah. Look out, America! What else you got?
Ken and Denny, Rex has talked a lot about what he would change gameplay-wise. What about you guys? What do you have on your list?
I don't know. I think Rex had pretty much all the ideas that I had. That was pretty thorough and pretty well thought out. But I would say that me and firearms, we've been very well acquainted since I was like 4 years old. So, I mean, I could think of any number of other guns or weapons that you could put in the sequel, and honestly, I think it'd be pretty cool. Like, put like we already have the Honey Badger in Days Gone 1. Get something like the Bushmaster ACR or the FN Scar. Got the Benelli M4 in it already. Incendiary rounds. Honestly, if we could get like different types of ammo,
ammo types,
like shotgun shells. Obviously, you could do birdshot, buckshot, slugs, incendiary rounds. You could do stuff like Raufoss rounds for your sniper rifle. So it's you don't necessarily have to shoot exactly like right where your target's at. Get rounds that can self-correct.
Yeah, some crazy high-tech shit like that. So, Ken, how do you feel about either an actual upgrade system for the weapons or even a system for modifying the weapons? And I see Claire is actually making a double thumbs down. Let me explain what I mean by that. Now, I know, right? Because I understand for Claire, that is not exciting gameplay, digging through menus and upgrading weapons and stuff. For her, that's not exciting gameplay. I totally get it. Because games that lack that, for me, is not exciting gameplay. I totally get it. But what I mean is more like, think I'm sorry, think The Last of Us. Yeah. The way they had a pretty simple upgrade system where, okay, you find crafting parts and, all right, you can upgrade your gun and it shoots better or it's got a skill up on it.
As long
a
as
very simple upgrade
There's minor
system.
stuff you can do that's not like full in-depth. You have to read a novel before you're going to get to leave this menu and go shoot something.
Yeah. Rechambering for a different caliber or crazy stuff like that. No, I'm not talking about all that. Yeah, I mean, just,
I like it in Resident Evil, and this is maybe a little too simplistic, but I like that you just find a part that attaches to your gun that makes it better.
Yeah.
So, like, something like a stock or whatever that improves the aim, and I forget what else you get, something that improves, like, the reload time. Things like that, like simple things. It's like, oh, you found a thing, here's your reward. something that's in
Yeah, something
Mild
similar to
upgrading.
that. Yes,
yeah,
definitely.
something in keeping with the skill tree that you have in Days
Yeah.
Gone, which is actually quite simple and not overly complicated. It's 3 basic pages, it's melee, ranged, and survival. And you have how many in each? 20 in each? No, how many are in each
A lot.
section?
A lot,
Whatever
yeah.
it is.
I think it's 20. I believe you're
Yeah.
correct. Yeah.
But it's not too complicated. It's not crazy, like too many options. That's where I start to get overwhelmed. And I don't feel like Days Gone is that kind of game that has too much in depth with the upgrade mechanics.
Kiss. Keep it simple, stupid.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But honestly, I would say that if we had, I would say a little bit more options as far as customizing your weapons. I mean, obviously, we don't really have the option to add optics, but I mean, I like the way Modern Warfare is set up. You have the gunsmith, you have options, and some optics are better than others.
Ooh, I like that. Having let's say one of the camps manages to recruit a certified armorer, a gunsmith.
I mean, you don't even have to be a gunsmith necessarily to do any of this stuff. This is stuff that if you've like I was gonna say you can do it at home, but I think
it would be cool though. Yeah, I think it would be cool though if
There's
one of the
no
camps
one-
actually
no one's
got
saying
a
it's illegal
weaponsmith.
now.
Right. But if they got an
No more
actual
tax stamps, let's go.
weaponsmith, yeah, sure. I think that'd be pretty cool. So
it'd be cool to have for melee weapons have a blacksmith.
an actual blacksmith in camp
Yeah.
making
Cool.
spiked maces and stuff like that.
Expand what
shields
you
and
can
shit.
craft instead of just
chainmail
relying
armor.
on pound.
Improve your boot knife.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right
Yeah.
on.
Yeah.
So speaking of weapons, one other thing, I was actually really disappointed to not see this specific weapon in Days Gone. I know a lot of people say, "Oh, I want a rocket launcher," or "I want like a minigun." Like the what's the weapon from Challenge Mode? The Growler. Yeah, the minigun from Challenge. People are like, "Oh, I want one of those in game. I want a rocket launcher in game." That's a bit excessive
Let's
to
try
me.
to be a little more practical.
But I really do think a grenade launcher would be fucking perfect, because with a grenade launcher you can have different types of rounds. Like you can have let's say tear gas rounds just for stunning large groups of humans. You could have actual concussive rounds, flashbang rounds, stuff like that. You could even have actual toxic, deadly gas rounds, just like the BND 150, launching the gas darts and stuff. You could have stuff like that. And I thought that's so cool. There's so many positions in Days Gone where if you can get yourself like up on a ledge somewhere looking down at the horde, you can lob grenades in really good. If you had something like a fucking grenade launcher, you would actually be able to handle hordes like the sawmill and bigger, of that's roughly that size or bigger. You'd be able to handle them so much more effectively,
and be able to handle them from stealth,
because
you have to get close to you have to be within throwing range
distance. Yeah.
Currently, if you had a grenade launcher, your propel range
your
would be
range,
further.
You can launch larger
expands.
grenades with a heavier payload at greater distances.
Oh,
Exactly.
I just had an idea. This is totally stupid, but wouldn't it be cool if the camps built trebuchets? If Diamond Lake had a trebuchet and
that's
the Mount
fucking awesome,
the Mount
man.
Bailey
Yeah.
hordes come in and they're just like, launch the trebuchet, and you have
Yeah.
like huge like 1,000, just not as like something that you would control, but like as part of a cutscene or something. 1,000,
yeah.
2,000, 5,000 strong horde.
Let's go back to medieval warfare.
Sweeping
Yeah.
towards Lost Lake, and they have fucking trebuchets. Like, oh, that'd be so cool. Launching like flaming
fire.
oil. And yes,
fuck
yes.
yeah, absolutely. I agree.
I do.
100%.
I do wish that they would sort of expand upon the camp mechanic. Like
Right.
you would have more, not necessarily camp jobs, but like more of a interaction or like an effect on what goes on in the camp. Upgrade the camp or expand, or like, you expand the farm and then suddenly you have more people because you have more food and you have a surplus and you're selling more, and it sort of snowballs to like seeing a real world effect to some of the stuff you do. Like if you go save the guy who is the armorer, suddenly you have better weapons.
Now you have an armorer. Yeah,
Yeah.
right. I love it.
I feel like we're all kind of making it be like Mad Max video game.
A little bit,
which is excellent.
It's not
And
a bad thing.
But-
one
Yeah.
of I'm
That's-
looking at my list right now, and one of my things is take over camps, kind of like in Mad
Yeah,
Max.
that's
Like,
right there in your notes. Yeah.
it would be cool if you could take over an ambush camp. So say you defeat the Belknap Caves ambush camp, and then you can put someone in there to build it up as a safe house, as a camp for you.
Well, the Far
That
Cry
it-
games do that as well, and it works really well. It's
Yeah.
a really cool
Yeah.
system.
Yeah, and it could
Hey, if it
provide
works, it works.
something for the region.
Yeah.
Some sort of income or safety or some mechanic that makes Belknap a little bit safer. Maybe it reduces the freaks because you've got more people going out on runs killing more freaks. So it reduces the possibility of getting those mega hordes. Those mega hordes. Yeah. It does that for you. So it's like a
by
way
increasing the security in the area, it slows down the rate at which hordes form.
Yeah. I think that'd be fucking badass.
That is neat, yeah.
So your actions would have more of a open world effect.
A tangible impact on the world around you, sure.
Yeah.
So I only have 2 more things.
Go ahead.
I have one more that is for gameplay. I would like to see at least 2-player couch co-op. I do not want to see actual multiplayer is 4 to 8 people. No, I don't want any kind of thing like that. But I think a 2-player couch co-op where you could do either the challenges, even just keep it separate where it's only in challenge mode.
That I would be down for.
Where you could do the endless horde challenges and stuff together. I do think a 2-player couch co-op would be cool. And the only other thing that I have is let's talk about things we absolutely do not want carried over to Days Gone 2. Now, we mentioned the pop-up cards at the end of, infestation zones and horde kills and stuff, but that's more like gameplay stuff. I mean, just what would you like to not see in Days Gone 2? And for me, the primary one is a weapon durability system where weapons degrade and have to be repaired or replaced or things like that. I think that would just be annoying. I'd like to have a simple, well-streamlined upgrade and modification system, but I do not want to see durability or anything like that.
That's one of those things that, yes, it's somewhat annoying, but I feel like it increases the realism. Because if you're out using a machete, it's not going to stay sharp forever. It's not going to work forever.
With the melee weapons, absolutely.
But the melee, you do have to repair them. I like that you have to repair those, but
with the melee weapons,
But I like that, you're saying, Rex, you don't have to repair your guns. The guns are just, they are what they are. And I feel like that's realistic enough because guns are kind of made to last. They're not getting unsharpened,
A quality firearm, if you keep it oiled, you can literally fire tens of thousands of rounds through it before you need to replace any components. So
a new barrel before anything.
Exactly.
Shoot out the rifling.
Yes, but I mean, again, that's thousands and thousands of rounds, but before that happens,
One thing that people mention a lot on the subreddit as wanting, and I think this comes from Red Dead Redemption, which I have not played, so I'm not entirely sure, but there's 2 things, actually. Some sort of you have to eat mechanic, a maintain Deacon's health in a way. Where you have to just remember
thirst
to
levels,
eat.
hunger levels, exposure levels, things like that.
That would be so fucking tedious. And the other thing that, again, I think is from Red Dead, some people say, wouldn't it be cool if Deacon's hair and beard grew and you had to shave over time? I was like, oh God, please no. Please no.
Why would you want? I mean, some level of cosmetics where you can change his appearance if you like.
Give him a
where
fucking
it actually
shave.
Grows and you have to
your beard hate is showing.
Yes, it is, Denny. Yes, it is.
We will have to agree to disagree.
And that's totally fine. And like Rex said, maybe there is a mechanic where you could change his appearance.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm just
some
going
limited cosmetics.
I'm thinking back to my Mad Max stream where I unlocked all of these different facial hairstyles, and I was
fuck.
no,
well, really?
no, none of this.
You don't want your Deacon to have a faux hawk?
Oh God.
Oh my God. What would Boozer say?
He wouldn't be able to talk. He'd be laughing too much.
Still got more
And then
hair
he'd
than
just
Boozer.
clock him with his left
He'd just
hook.
clock him, 3 times. Knock him on his ass.
Yeah.
Fucking shameful.
Right. Yeah, it's one of my favorite lines from the game.
Oh.
Fucking shameful.
One thing that I know your opinion on this, Rex, but I want to ask Ken and Dandy Denny, what about different outfits? The ability to just purely cosmetically change how Deacon looks throughout the game, or whoever the main character is, you've unlocked this costume, this outfit.
That would be nice.
Yeah, I mean, I'd be down for it.
The first one kind of did that, but it was more focused on guns. It was like, hey, you completed the storyline, here's a gun.
Yes.
They could be like, hey, you completed the storyline, here's a new vest, new jacket, new, you can change between outfits because you finished or whatever.
Or you kill somebody and you're like, hey, that's a cool outfit. I'm going to take that.
I like your boots.
Yeah, right.
I mean, maybe they could be useful.
That's
you
what I'm saying,
Find a thick leather jacket
No,
that
this
actually
has better
provides,
armor. Yeah,
provides some
little
armor.
resistance, damage resistance. Yeah, stuff. And that was what I was going to say. Is like for me, if changing the outfits and stuff, that's cool and all. If it has some tangible effect in game, if it's purely cosmetic, yeah, I have no use for it.
Right.
That also sort of bleeds into the survivalist aspect where it's like, oh, he's hungry, or oh, he's
right,
exposed
you find
to
better
cold,
boots,
or
you find a good
the
jacket.
and it keeps you
sure,
warm.
Sure,
I
yeah,
like to do it in
absolutely.
Death Stranding.
Oh yeah, I haven't played that one yet.
It's pretty good.
All right. Anything else that you guys want to bring up? So I have one final question for us. But is there anything else that we want or don't want in a sequel?
Tucker.
Wait, you want her or don't want her in a sequel?
Definitely do
Please,
not.
please clarify.
Because I mean, earlier you said she was going to be with Boozer.
Keep her in
Yes,
there
so
for as short
And do
time
you
as
have a
possible.
secret thing for Tucker?
If you call a secret thing wanting her to be drugged behind that little, the little
Golf cart.
Yeah, actually, yeah, that'd be interesting. I've just never been a fan of Tucker.
Is this one of those rom-com things where it's like you hate each other, but then finally you realize, oh, actually you've been in love this whole time?
Maybe that's
goodness.
Deacon. Maybe Deacon and Tucker. I don't know.
Yeah. They do have a rapport, don't they?
They got
Oh
something.
my god. All right, so I have a final question for everyone. Do we even need Days Gone 2?
Yes.
Honestly, do I need a Days Gone 2? No, I really don't.
Yeah.
Because here's the reason I say this. The chances of we know it's not going to be John and Jeff working on it.
Right.
The chances of that are zero. I mean, Eric Jensen's not with Bend anymore either. So, most of the top guys there, they're not even there. It would be an entirely different animal than what we are hoping it would be. And I don't want that disappointment. I don't want to end up in prison when Days Gone 2 comes out. Okay. But also, man, I'm not done playing part 1 yet.
See,
I still have hundreds of hours left in part 1.
Yeah.
I ain't even hardly touched challenge mode yet. I still got hundreds of hours left there. I'm not done with Days Gone yet. And I don't think Days Gone 1 is done with me.
I don't think I'll ever be done with Days Gone.
I agree. My heart says yes, but my brain says, you might get burned. That might be a huge letdown, and I would rather have none than a terrible, awful,
Yes.
horrible substitute.
I want to have my wonderful memories of the Days Gone that I have and not have this, oh my God, I hate it memories of Days Gone 2,
Right.
But if they get it right, well, fuck yeah, we need one.
I mean, I'm in the boat of yes, please, let's have one.
Yeah.
And if it sucks, then I'll play it once and then be like, no, I'm good.
Yeah.
Kind of like The Last of Us. Like we didn't
Exactly.
necessarily need a
Yes.
sequel. I played it. It was a good game. I enjoyed it. The story was, but I'm not going to play it again. But I liked having that experience, and
Yeah.
I'd like to see what a Days Gone 2 would be. And if it sucks, then it sucks, and whatever. I'll just stick with the first one.
Yeah, just
Yeah.
keep replaying the first one like
Yeah.
we're going to
Like
do anyway.
we were going to do that anyway.
Yeah, we were going to do that anyway. Yeah.
As long as it doesn't take place in Scotland.
Meet the Highlander versus Days Gone.
Borislav might not mind.
No, nothing against Scotland. Scotland's gorgeous. I was just joking because of the actor that they've supposedly tapped for the movie. He's from Outlander, so that's the only thing I know him from. And he's a very good actor, but he is definitely not
Sam
the right actor.
So you wouldn't want him to play Deacon in the sequel. They just
Yeah, no.
recast Sam Witwer in Days Gone 2 and get that other Sam.
What
Maybe
are you
they
talking
just
about? Deacon has always been a redhead.
Oh, fuck, no!
Maybe they just wanted to piss off people in the Days Gone community
did a
so that
great
that's how you
job.
get
They
people
faked
talking,
it.
right?
Yeah.
that's how you get people talking. You piss people off. That
Any
starts
publicity is
conversations.
good
That aesthetic
publicity.
response.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Speaking of which, what if it was just a prequel that was all about Schizo? No, I'm kidding. I'm just trying to piss you all out.
Get out!
I was waiting to see when we would bring him up.
Fuck! Now we have to take shots, don't we? Somebody said Schizo.
Shut.
I'll tell you, honestly,
Yeah.
if any of y'all are on the any of the Days Gone Facebook pages, you should check out some of the more recent Schizo photos that I posted, because I'm like, during my stream I like to do a little bit of photo mode stuff, and I just threw threw a Molotov at Skizzo and took a photo of it. And Deacon seemed to
I've
really
got a
enjoy
whole
it.
album of that shit, dude.
Right.
I've got an album of that shit on the Fuck Skizzo subreddit.
I don't know what you guys are talking about. It's totally not possible to do that.
She went to the Fuck Skizzo subreddit for something very different.
For something else, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh.
There has been a mistake.
I thought there was going to be better pictures.
Wait, you guys say that like that one doesn't exist? It's just called something different. Okay, any last thoughts? Anyone? Should we wrap it up? I'll take that silence as a wrap it up. All right, you can support the Days Gone podcast via buymeacoffee.com/8bitterror. All contributions are greatly appreciated and really help with the overhead costs of running the podcast. You can do a one-time contribution, and you can now become a member via a monthly or annual subscription. There are a few different membership levels to choose from, each with their own perks. I want to give a shout out and a big thank you to my supporting members, Miranda Satin and Basics of Pain. Also, thank you to Anton G for your recent contribution to the show. Ken, Dandy Denny, Rex, thank you all so much for coming on the show today.
Absolute pleasure. Glad to be here every time.
It
Absolutely.
was a blast.
You can email me your thoughts, comments, opinions, and counter-arguments at daysgonepod@gmail.com. You can also find me moderating the Days Gone subreddit. Thanks for listening. Weaver out.